between the development methodology of Power BI, what we learned in the basic and what will be going to be followed for this our advanced user. Then Michael will help us in detail what are the steps for this development of advanced methodology, and then he will take us through again what we followed in the previous session in the basic course, some sample file, sample data, and we try to pull the data and then prepare some basic graph. Now today we will prepare some advanced graph, and then finally feedback from our users. Then come to the next one. We discussed couple of slides. We discussed that Power BI is the any data can be pulled up into this Power BI. We can have use this for anywhere. I can say online, offline, and these are the interactive graph. We can pull the data from the cloud-based database. We can pull the data on premise on our Excel files. And this is I can say out of the box from the Microsoft, because we see that in our basic that is it is from same family of Microsoft where we use Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, MS Team in day out our I can say day in day out our office work. Correct. Similarly, this Power BI tool is the advanced analytical tools, very user friendly. We can get it installed on our laptops and then immediately we can start using. Once we use this Power BI, we can host this dashboards or we can host this graph either on the web portal, on mobile phones. You can able to see the same graph. Excel file again, we can send it and it can be embedded with any other presentation directly. Similarly, some more applications we can use to host this Power BI. Then we learned that how to create this Power BI on the basic, that we need an input as an Excel file we need, and from that Excel file can be our daily operation file, maybe weekly reporting file, monthly file, or yearly file. That MIS file we need to use for creation of this dashboard. And for this process and activity, what process or activity will follow? As you are aware that our management has given this since last year, given a mandate to create a goal sheet for each department, and that each goal sheet we have identified some SLA, service level agreement, between the cross functions. Then we identify what are our key performance area, what are our key performance indicators. For example, some of the indicators are the lagging indicator, where we are doing performance very good month-on-month basis or week-on-week basis. But some of the indicator might be lagging, where we are not performing as per the expectation or goal set in our goal sheet. Then we will prepare all this graph based on this leading indicator and the lagging indicator. Okay, we will use this lagging indicator and leading indicator to create the graphs, and then based on these indicators we will visualize. First we have to visualize graph in our mind, what graph we want, whether historical graph we want, pie charts we want, or some heat maps we want, or line charts we want. Based on that, we will prepare some multiple graphs and we create some out of story in that graph. So we can give a proper story of our functions, our reportings, our day-to-day SLAs, correct? And then finally, we will publish this dashboard to our all users for using these dashboards, or you can publish this dashboard to management with the links. Then we discuss as a basic steps. These 5 steps we have discussed in our last session, where Michael has taken us through the full journey of the presentation as well as the hands-on training with the basic Excel file, and he tried to create the basic Excel file with using these 5 steps. What are these 5 steps? First one is the get data from the Excel, then analyze that data, whether those whatever rows and columns data we have, whether the proper dates are there, whether the proper calculations are there, whether those I can say characteristics are properly mentioned in the Excel file. If our base data, input data is correct, then we can have the very good graph. Otherwise, our graph may be go wrong. We have to analyze our data first. Then we get the powerful, I can say, models in that Excel itself. Then we have to visualize what we discussed previously, what kind of reports or what kind of graph we need to prepare. Once we prepare those graphs, then we can publish all the users, and finally we can collaborate with all other applications or cross-functional that we will see in this subsequent session. Then what are the how we can use this Power BI, and what are the activity of various users? Because we identify 3 main users in this. First is the developer, that is our Michael. We already seen that we have interacted with him lots of time. Then the power users identified in each department what they can do, and finally the end user, maybe a cross-departmental user, maybe a management, what they can do. They can do the dashboard. They can view the reports, they can view the presentation and all those stuff. Then as a developer, you can have the 1 million records can be pushed for creation of dashboard. You can use this Power BI to integrate with other applications. You can integrate with the SharePoint Excel sheets. You can integrate with your local machine Excel sheets. Then we can create a real-time dashboard based on the use of developer help, Mr. Michael. Then we can create a custom visual, custom graph, because sometimes those standard graphs available in Power BI that is not sufficient for our requirement. Then we have to create some custom code or custom, I can say, graphs based on our visual. Then we can empower our user, that is the second level in the individual department, to create more dashboard based on the custom visuals. Because as per our individual department, we have, I can say, sometime restricted data, sometime confidential data. We don't want to show with our developer or some other cross functions. In that case, we identify our individual department, one power user or two power user. They can develop their own dashboards based on the Excel files, and they can refresh this data based on their day-to-day Excel file, based on their weekly files, and subsequently they can embed this report into the SharePoint, and they can flash this dashboard through the SharePoint also. Why we need to have the SharePoint? Because in SharePoint, we are creating a workspace individual department wise. Just like in SharePoint, we have our data repository, and this data repository has created as a department level. Each department is having their own intranet page. Similarly, here also for Power BI dashboard published, we will have our own workspace. Each department wise. In that department wise, we'll create the named user, we'll create one power user as an admin user who can give the further access to their department users. We can have some credentials provided to them. Then we can tag that based on the geolocations, which location to be given this authorization or not. Then finally, this power user can I can say compile maximum to 100,000 kind of records from the Excel files, and then he can publish this report. He can use these data sets to create more dashboard, more graphs, and finally it can be embedded into this SharePoint-based dashboards, and finally it can be published to the end user to see these reports, interactive dashboards. So this is the analogy. Go back. This is the analogy, and this is, I can say, role definitions of each person involved in this development of the dashboard. One is the developer, second is power user, and finally our end users, maybe a cross-departmental user, maybe a day-to-day users, and finally our management users. Correct? Yes. Any question for this? Or I will move to the vibe, and again we have, let's say, Power BI installed in our desktop. That is a free version provided by the Microsoft, because we all are adopted a first policy in IT, where we migrated all our Exchange, all our AD data into the Office 365. That is the latest, I can say, solution from the Microsoft. That is Office 365 or 365. In that, we got the Power BI license as a free desktop version that we need to get installed from the help of service desk team. Once we get that installed, we can start developing our dashboards in that desktop version of Power BI, and subsequently we can get a license of Pro as a power user from our IT team, and then we can develop, I can say, data capacity up to a 10 GB can be possible. Similarly, they can publish a data 8 times in a day. It means 24 divided by 8, it means almost 3 times every 3 hours. He can publish a dashboard, refresh data. Then he can use this dashboard for input file around 1 million of rows per hour, and all this they can share the dashboard. But if you are the free user, you need to have the, I can say, you cannot give this published dashboard and share with other user. Correct? Yes. Move on next, Michael. Then we will see the comparison, because we already learned. You to see that basic course we have seen that get data, analysis, visuals, publish, and collaborate. Correct? We have learned these 5 steps a couple of days before as a part of our basic course. Now we will see the today's session as the advanced course of this Power BI. These are the 5 advanced, I can say, steps, that is the create queries, configure relationship, then enhance the data model based on the custom visuals, custom graphs. Then we have to design this reports as per our requirement, and finally publish Power BI reports to the end users. Correct? Yes. Now I request Michael to take us through the journey of our advanced development methodology of these 5 steps, and take us through the sample file, how we can create the advanced graph or advanced Power BI dashboards. Yes, Michael, over to you.
All right, thank you, sir. And good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back once again and on this journey where we are going to be moving a step higher. So I encourage everybody to pay attention because some of the things we are going to be discussing in this class can be used to achieve any form of reports that you want to create. Any form of report. At the end of this interaction, you will have the basic and the next level understanding of almost everything around Power BI. And then all you need to do is to follow up with practice and practice and practice. So we're looking at some of the advanced steps that you actually need to engage in as you prepare your Power BI report. As I said in one of our training, we must all understand the difference between a Power BI report and a Power BI dashboard. Those are two different terminologies in the world of Power BI. And as power users, I expect all of us to these two. A Power BI report is simply that Excel file that contains related information that you have put together in Power BI and published. So your single report about, let's say, budget or weekly MIS, that is a Power BI report. But after some time, you will have several reports. Am I correct? You will have weekly reports, you will have monthly reports, you can also have team performance reports, you can have budgets, and so many types of Power BI, I'll call it projects that you have actually developed. After you have developed a couple of Power BI solutions, then you can create a dashboard from these different reports. What is the difference? With a dashboard, you can pull graphs from the different reports and arrange them in one page. So that is your dashboard. This is very important that we understand because as we progress, we will move to that level where we need to start publishing dashboard rather than just reports. Your dashboard comprises of selected graphs or visuals from different reports, as long as they are all published in one workspace. I'm going to show us what a workspace is. So in other words, I cannot pick graphs designed in a report that was published to a different department, let's say IT, for example, and another report was published to accounts. You cannot pick the visuals from these different workspaces to create a dashboard. It will not work. But if I have 5 different reports created in IT workspace, I can pick 3 visuals from all of these different reports and arrange them together in one page or on one page. And that becomes my IT dashboard. This is very important because management will begin to look forward to that kind of presentation where you bring a summary of all your major reports on one page with a link for them to click to take them to the individual reports. That is something you should understand as an advanced user. Okay, so looking at all the 5 steps that are involved in advanced Power BI activities, one of them is for you to understand how to create queries. We have already passed the stage called get data. Every one of us here, I believe, can get data. But when you get your data, you have 2 options before you. 1, load that data and start designing your graphs. That is what most users will do. As long as your Excel file has been prepared correctly. Remember, we talked about data preparation. So if you have prepared your Excel file correctly, you ensure that your dates are in the right format, all your numbers are without letters, they are in the right format, all your columns are properly spelled, and you have converted that Excel to a table. As long as you have done that, you just load the data. You don't need to transform the data. You will not get any error. So that is one thing that we all conversate with. But as an advanced user, you need to understand how to create queries. Queries in Power BI is what makes you a champion, because then you will begin to understand that there are two types of tables in Power BI. Remember, any data that you connect to from Excel is a table in Power BI. Any set of data, related data, is called a table in Power BI. So when you connect to a table, there are two types of table. You begin to understand and appreciate the difference between the two types of table when you understand how to create queries. One type of table is called a dimension table. Another type of table is called a fact table. What is a dimension table and what is a fact table? I'm just trying to give us a quick introduction before we move through the slide, because I will move through the slide quickly so that we can get our heads busy. So the two types of table we have is the dimension table and the fact table. The dimension table contains information about your data. So for example, if I have a dimension table for customers, let's say we are using sales report. In that my sales report, I can have orders, transaction orders, or sales order. I can have it as a data. And inside that sales order, I have a column called customer name. Okay? That your customer name can be taken out of that your sales data and stored in a separate table, because a customer has several properties that you as an analyst is very much interested in. A customer has an age that you want to analyze so that you can send birthday messages to your customers. Your customer has a location where they live. Your customer also has some of their preferences and so many other properties about your customer. So there is a way to separate your customer from all your sales record so that you can link your sales record with just what we call the customer ID. So every customer will have a unique number. All you need in your sales table is that number. You don't need the name of the customer, just the number. Because with that number, you are going to get the customer name, but you're also going to get the customer age, the customer address, the customer location. Do we understand the picture I'm trying to paint? So that's your customer table is called a dimension table. It's a dimension table. While your sales table that contains just the customer ID is your fact table. All right? That is just one example. There are several examples. For example, your dates, your transaction date has a lot of other properties apart from just the day. Your transaction date can have properties like the month, the year, the week. Is it a public holiday that this sales was made? Is it on a Sunday? What week, what day of the week? All of these are properties of dates. So therefore, you can create a table called dimension, a table for your dates, so that all the other properties of dates can be there. And then you can link your date table and your sales table together. it is very important that we understand the difference between a dimension table and a fact table. Having said that, I will move on quickly. So when you want to create queries, the place where we create queries is inside your Power Query. Okay? Power Query, I explained in the last class that it's a software that is part of Power BI, but it's different from Power BI. Power Query has always been in existence before Power BI came into play. That is why you can find Power Query inside Excel. Is there anybody here that tried to look for Power Query inside Excel after our last class? If you go to Excel, you will find Power Query there, and it does the same thing. What does it do? It is used for data transformation. It is used for what? Data transformation, which can involve data cleansing, data rearrangements, data beautification. Yeah, you can make your data look beautiful. You can decide to turn everything into capital letter, or you can use camel case, first letter, capital letter, or you can decide to add 0.00 after numbers. Different things you can do. You can use it to correct spelling, typographical errors.